What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Bridging the Gap here on the Jersey First TV network. As always, I'm AJ Malillo,
I'm Stephen Rambola.
and we have another great show today, I think. I think we always have a great show, if I'm being completely honest.
I think our shows are phenomenal.
Well, hey, what are you going to do? Anyway,
Sensational.
um, so we are going to be talking about what's going on with TikTok. We talked about that last week. We're going to be talking about some of the SBF FTX story that is breaking and has broke and will continue to develop. And we're going to be talking a little bit about a big file dump by the Biden administration in regards to the John F. Kennedy assassination. But before we do all of that, let's start by talking to Steve about what he did this past week.
Oh, what did I do this past week? I did I did a lot. Let's see. Well, first of all, I just want to point out the hilarity, in my opinion, that we're going to be talking about SBF, FTX, JFK. Like it's just the acronym episode, apparently.
And
Um,
TikTok's not an acronym, so
yeah. I was thinking in my head while you were talking, I was like, what's a TikTok acronym? What's a TikTok acronym? The FYP, the For You page.
the For You page, yeah.
Ready? Here's the soundbite. From the FYP to SBF and FTX, all the way down to JFK, bridging the gap. Steve and AJ got it for you today. Boom.
All of that rhyming. I don't know if my brain can handle that right now, Steve.
Yeah, that was a lot. Now listen, man, had a good week. I'm, as you can tell, not in my usual setting. I'm currently down in not so sunny today, but typically sunny Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Having myself a week down here with my very special lady friend, enjoying that. I hit a deer with my car. All is well. I'm safe. But that's been about the most exciting thing that's happened, aside from all the time and memories I've spent making with her down here. Other than that, I think the individual that we have to talk to that had a big week is you because you did something incredible.
Well, before we get into that, I just wanna note, like, I feel like it's always something with you, Steven. Like, something always happens. Nothing is ever just, an easy experience, like, you hit a deer, or you run out of gas. Like, something is bound to happen whenever you do anything.
Correct, correct. Even as far as the last time you and I saw each other go into the bagel shop, for some reason my bagel takes 25 minutes and everybody else takes 7. Like
Right, and it's
it's
still
just
wrong.
yeah, it's 20 minutes and it's incorrect.
Yeah.
So it is always something. I've come to accept that. I think it's the price that I pay for the wonderfully privileged life that I get to enjoy. So you'll never really hear me complain about it. I just consider them like fun little like mini challenges along the way,
Yeah, no,
character building exercises.
it's funny, and everybody, I feel like everybody in a friend group has like different things that like goes on with them, sort of like if you look at it like a television show, like there are little sort of side stories that always continue, right? Like everybody's got that one friend that you make that everybody else like kind of makes fun of in the friend group, like there was
Yep.
the butt of the joke, right? So that's our friend Nick. And I feel like your thing is that it's never perfect, like it can never just
No.
be easy and simple. Like something's gotta just there's gotta be a curveball in there for me,
Yes. Yeah.
or for you. I don't really know what mine is, but I'm sure we could figure it out if we had a little bit of time.
I think you're just the intellect. I think that's what you are.
I don't know. I mean, we're all pretty smart,
You're the
but
intellectual bachelor. You
yeah,
show up, you have a good time, you're smart, you drop knowledge, and you leave. That's it.
that's fair. No, I'm always down for a party. Everybody knows that though. So I'm the vibes. I would say that
You
if
are.
anything, I like to think of myself as the positive energy
You
comes in.
are.
I'm
And
very rarely sad.
speaking of partying, I'm quite aware that you enjoyed some celebration last night.
Yes. So to that point, I officially finished my first semester of law school, which was wonderful. Very happy. Um,
Woo!
a lot of hard work. They say your first semester is the hardest one, so I'm glad to get it out of the way finally, and hopefully it does get a little bit easier from here. But yeah, I mean, I'm just glad it's over. I already got one final I won't say grade back because it's a pass fail class, but I did pass, so we're good.
Nice.
So I'm 1 for 1 so far.
Those are great
Um,
numbers.
yeah, no, it's a I'll take it, right? So then yeah, so afterwards it was a good time. We all went to McGillen's, which is the oldest bar in Philly. Um, and it's karaoke night on Wednesdays. So
Uh,
naturally had to get myself up on the stage, did a little Ice Ice Baby right at the end of the night, took the house down, and I only had one beer. I was the designated driver, so I had a beer, I had a water, and then I drove. So very responsible, but still had a great time. I still enjoyed it. Everybody was there having a great time. We were all spreading congratulatory messages, wishing everybody, a wonderful break because now we got a couple weeks off with the holidays, Christmas and New Year's and all that. And of course, the best holiday in that break is my birthday. But
yes,
I mean, not everybody celebrates that, I guess.
everybody should.
Right. That's what I've been saying. Like, I don't know. But yeah, so it was a
I
good time. It was a good time.
on a real note, and while this is off topic, I'm very proud of you. Friend to
Thank
friend,
you.
absent of the shows and then theatrics. Like you and I have been at this together for a very, very, very long time. Whether it be podcasting or the journey to where we both are now and where we're going to continue to go. You've been the right hand man as I've been to you, and it's just awesome to see you take that big first step.
Yeah, and it's like every week you have another law school acceptance letter that comes through too. So
That's
you got
true.
another one this week. So we're
I
three
did
three for three so far over
three for
there.
three, 3 for 3, all with scholarships. So listen,
So we love it. We love it.
things are not too shabby.
And is that Theo in the background that I hear also congratulating us on our accomplishments?
Yes, that is my girlfriend's wonderful dog Theodore. I was very, very close to letting him hang out down here, but unfortunately, as you can tell, he's a bit of a loud fella, and that just wouldn't have been well for the viewers, and he would have
Yeah, no,
been
that's
nipping at
fair.
my feet the whole time.
That's fair. That's fair. He's still a puppy. He'll get there.
Yeah, we just took him to the dog park. It was wonderful.
Very good. Very good. Um, but yeah, so a lot of great things going on, and hopefully all of the viewers have something great going on in their life, even if it's just prepping for the holiday season. That's always a good time. But let's get to some of these stories, Steve. What do you say?
I'm with it.
All right. So last week we talked a lot about TikTok, and we talked about how South Dakota was putting legislation out there that they were banning TikTok from government devices. Texas was doing similar things, and a bunch of states across the country were doing similar things. Well, now, recently, um, Josh Hawley's bill, which is Senate Bill 1143, titled, ready for this creative title, No TikTok on Government Devices Act, was just passed bipartisan through the Senate. And it does exactly what it says it does, right? So basically, it's banning TikTok from being on all government officials and employees' work phones, basically. Obviously, we still live in a free country, so they can't really ban it from our phones. Um, as just normal citizens. But I think it's a step in the right direction. I actually heard a very interesting way of explaining this on a podcast I was listening to, which is Breaking Points, who's Crystal Ball and Sagar. Very similar to this show. Highly recommend listening to it. People on different ends of the political spectrum, respectfully talking about issues. And Sagar was like, imagine it's the height of the Cold War, and a Russian company is like the biggest newspaper in our country. It's like, do you think that we should have just been cool with that? Like, yeah, whatever. The New York Times is owned by Russians, and so whatever. It's
Yeah.
not that big of a deal. He's like, no, obviously not. Obviously, our government would say that's not okay. We shouldn't have that in our country. So
Oh, you've got a pup barking too.
yeah, we got two dogs in the house today. We have Athena and Goose here. So anyway, um, so basically, TikTok is a Chinese company. They have U.S. branches, right, and Westernized branches, but everything reports back to the Chinese Communist Party, like we were talking about yesterday. So I think this is a really good move from the senators, and we'll see if the bill passes in the Congress. It seems like Speaker Pelosi in her last few weeks has been sort of on the fence about bringing up this bill, but I'm sure it'll be brought up as soon as the new Congress gets brought in, which has a Republican majority. So we'll see if it passes in the House, and then of course if it passes in the House, it goes to the president's desk and he would have to sign it into law, which would just be basically redoing the Trump administration's administrative action. But now this would be an actual, law passed by Congress. So we'll see where it goes. Personally, I support it, and honestly, I think it wouldn't be the end of the world if we kind of were like, yeah, we're not going to allow TikTok on U.S. devices and just have a U.S. company make something that's exactly the same. That's pretty much what they did in India, and it's worked out fine. Like, whatever. I don't know. I'm not attached to TikTok. Like, I like the content on it, and that content can be created on an American app just as easily.
Yeah, I think so. Numbers wise, the federal government has about 2.85 million employees. So it's also, we're not talking about a small number of people, at least their government devices this affects. But when I was reading about this, the thing that struck me on its face was, if you have a work phone, why are you downloading like an entertainment application on your work phone? It's for work. Like, to me, you know the deal. Every job I've had, it's pretty common knowledge. It's probably been since cell phones have been around. When you're at work, you're not on your phone. So I'd imagine if you had a work phone, you don't put things not related to work on your work phone.
Well, yes, I mean, fair enough, but people that they're like Congress people have social media managers that work for them, and like their whole job is to be on social media and creating content for them, right? So that's pretty much what.
That's
But
fair.
the problem, but the other thing about TikTok too, though, is that it gets to a point where it doesn't really matter. Like it it can read all of the data on all of your devices if they're connected, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So like it's a very intrusive app. So
So
even if it's your
I was
personal
gonna
phone, yeah, like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the big thing for me when I look at this bill, when I look at what it stands for, is this comes down to a problem that doesn't just affect the government, right? Like, we can kind of microscope this in on TikTok and government devices, and that's what we're talking about right now. But the bigger issue is like extreme data collection and this data harvesting. And listen, man, there's kids on TikTok. I don't know what the age on the App Store is to download it. Not that that matters anyway, because people will download whatever. But you have children on this application, right, that don't understand A, what data even is, B, how it's used, and C, what it's used for. So the bigger conversation, and I wouldn't be opposed to this conversation being had, that TikTok shouldn't be allowed to really operate on any devices in this country because it is such widespread data collection. And like you said, if you have interconnected devices, I mean, I'm sitting here, I have my iPhone and a MacBook, and I have an iPad at home, and they're all connected to the Apple Cloud. And when I sign into an account on one, it's on all three of them. And now whatever data was on my MacBook, that app has access. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost insane how connected and deep the web goes. So to start the conversation with government devices shouldn't have this app that is, owned and operated by the Chinese Communist Party at the end of the day, that's a very solid and sound conversation to be having. I would not have any issues with that. I support the bill entirely. See how that goes, broaden that, open it up, and let's take a look and see what kind of data this app is collecting, how it's being used by China and its parent company, the CCP at the end of the day. Throw another acronym at you. And maybe that's a conversation that we need to look at in the next, 1 to 2 years, is should Americans, be allowing, essentially, by downloading this application, China to just data harvest off them? Because we've said this for a very long time. I know some very smart individuals, professors in our lives have said this. The next war is not going to be on the ground. It is not going to be in the water. It is not going to be the air. It is going to be online. It is going to be a lot of electricity, data, internet, all of these things. I mean, look at what Elon Musk does with Starlink and satellites. And there was a story last week about some vandals who had shot up a substation in North Carolina and put tens of millions of people out of power. That's been a real threat that's been discussed about by the military for quite some time, is how unstable our electrical grids are. Guess what? All of that is connected. So the next front is going to be an internet digital war, 100%. Are we foolish right now for allowing an enemy to continue to collect data on us when we full well know it's happening? Let's come back to this in 2 years, 3 years, and maybe we'll have an answer. Maybe,
No, I
hopefully,
think
an
it's
answer that we like.
I mean, I think it's kind of obvious that it is a foolish thing. I think it's kind of obvious, like you said, everything is so connected. It's so easy. You could pretty much take out the country by taking out our power grid, which is super, super interconnected and super, super like I don't know, unstable, I guess is the best way to say it. Like, these are the things that we should be we have these giant, giant spending packages with all of this money given to the military and defense packages and whatnot. And it's like, all right, look, if we're gonna be signing these checks, put them in good places at
Yep.
least. You know what I mean? Like if we're signing these checks anyway, then up all of that type of infrastructure because I'm completely on board with you that the idea of a ground war is going it's so foreign. Like what we're seeing in Russia and Ukraine is so I don't know. There's a reason that it shocked the psyche of the world. It's because like putting actual troops on the ground is not something that people think would still happen, and it
Yeah.
does. But the next major war, I completely agree. Even if there are boots on the ground, the bigger problem is going to be what's going on in the cyberspace. Um, and I think it's absolutely fair. It's apt to say that it's foolish to allow a known Chinese operating company to be not only gathering up all of this data, and we don't even know how intrusive it is. We just know that it's bad, right? So to allow this Chinese spyware on every single phone of every single person that are going to be of fighting age, of even broader than that, but like the future leaders of the country, right?
Hmm.
They'll know their habits from the time they're 13 years old. They will literally be able to shape the minds of the future leaders of the country. How scary like we can this is very scary and you can it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that it's very easy to not only control the minds of like 13-year-old kids, but to
Hmm.
get them hooked on something and be able to get them to think whatever you want. And if you don't think that that's exactly what the Communist Party is trying to do to American kids, then I don't know. I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you, I guess. Like it's
Yeah. And to your point about this, I think one of the most shocking things for me is, this is just a little personal anecdote. I was at work. This happened, I want to say 2 weeks ago, and stop me if I've told this story already. But my boss is at work. We have a nice small local family owned business. They have a daughter. She's 5 years old. And I walked in and I took a picture. Maybe I could send it to you later and we could try and get it up here if I still have it. I was in Walmart a few weeks ago and I saw under the Christmas aisle thing,
yeah, the
it was like
TikTok the content creators
the
stuff,
content
right?
creator kit.
Yeah.
You want to know when that, at least in my recent memory, when that became a viable career path for individuals, is when everybody, got viral on TikTok, started getting access to this creator fund, making money, moving into these houses together. So it's gone as far as suggesting to children, and I'm not saying that it's not, but I'm also saying that there's way more secure ways to make money, and we should probably be teaching our children more secure ways to make money and a living. That it's okay. You can make a living off this. Not only is this fun and entertaining and it spikes your dopamine and it makes you happy, but you can make money doing this. Think about the things that are really enticing to a child. All the while, like you said, they're collecting data that is going to let them know about your habits, your interests. They're going to learn how to make suggestions to you, push product, push ideas, all of these things. And what you're being fed is dopamine and money. It's like the most classic trick in the book. It works on everybody. And I'm going to double down and say that I think we are foolish for allowing it to continue to proliferate at the rate that it does within this country. we need to be more conscientious about the way that the citizenry engages with data on the internet, because not only is it a personal security matter, but as we see now, it's a national security matter. And I want to home in on another point here. If Nancy Pelosi and these dinosaurs of the US Congress recognize this digital threat, then it's a problem, because notoriously these people are delayed in passing legislation that deals with technology because they simply don't understand.
Yeah,
So
I mean that's fair, but if you look at like the sponsors of the bill, they're on the younger side. Like you're looking at
they
Senator
are.
Josh Hawley and Marco Rubio and you know uh, Tom Scott. Like these are fairly younger senators.
But if they can
At the end of the
convince
day,
even the
if they
older
convince Mitch
folks,
McConnell, yeah.
that's what I mean. Like if Mitch McConnell gets the picture, then what are we doing?
Sorry, I said Tom Scott. It's
Tim
Tom
Scott.
Cotton, Tom
Oh,
Cotton, and Rick Scott.
oh
I just
man,
mixed the two.
we're all over the place.
Yeah, but anyway, um, so yeah, I think that's absolutely you're correct 100%. I don't disagree at all. It's something that we should look at. And look, American companies are mining for our data and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, they're mining our data to make money. They're not mining our data to give it to the Chinese government.
It's a
Like
big difference.
there's a difference there. Like okay, sure, Elon Musk knows my search habits on Twitter, whatever, and my news, my curation of my Twitter for you page is Jets, Yankees, and politics. Like okay, fine, he's making a buck. I don't really care. Facebook, I don't care that Mark Zuckerberg's making money. I do care that the Chinese government is honing in on all of this information though. And so if Instagram Reels has to take over in our country, it is what it is. Like I don't think anybody's going to really lose that much sleep over it.
No, and you know what's crazy too about a lot of these creators is the stuff that they post on TikTok gets posted to these other platforms anyway. So
Right.
for anybody who would make the argument that, well, I won't be able to see, Charlie D'Amelio do the Savage dance, to like 2 years ago, but it's getting posted on Instagram. It's going to be on Twitter. You know what? If you use Facebook, you could probably find it on Facebook too. So there's alternatives that for national security's sake, I'm not going to say for personal privacy's sake, because I think that's a completely different topic and an opinion worth discussing in its own, long form way. But for national security purposes, watch an Instagram reel, use your Twitter feed. TikTok does not need to be on the phone. It does not need to be a part of your device. And you know what, AJ? I will say it right now. I think next episode, you and I should just cleanse ourselves, lead by example, and we should live on air just rid our phones of TikTok.
That's fair. We could do that. We'll make it a big thing. So everybody tune in next week as Steven and I delete our TikTok accounts.
We'll get a hashtag going, and we can make this a promotional thing. And what next week will be? What it'll be Christmas Eve, right?
Yeah, when it releases, yeah.
Perfect. So for Christmas, everybody's deleting TikTok. That's a gift to the
that's our
Chinese
gift.
government
and the U.S. government.
and the U.S. government.
A gift
Giving
to our
back-
troops.
Yes, civics for Christmas.
I mean, listen, JFK said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Right? Delete TikTok. That's what you can do for your country.
You're right. And listen, speaking of JFK, perfect little segue for us. The Biden administration today, November 15th, December 15th. Wow.
That was
I'm
good.
talking about how Christmas is in a week, and then I'm saying November. December 15th, 2022, the Biden administration authorized the release of what seems to be the last of the JFK files. I don't know if you remember way back when Donald Trump was making a
that
big
was
stink about these
2017.
early in the Trump presidency.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, Trump's going to reveal the JFK files and he's a conspiracy theorist hero. We're going to find out who killed JFK. And then it all came out and nothing happened. And then he was like, I can't release it all because there's people who know things that are still alive.
And everyone was like, it's George H.W. Bush. It's definitely George H.W. Bush.
And then when he died, Trump was like, we could probably release more, but he never did. Along comes Joe Biden, signs
He
the
got
papers, and
sued.
here we are.
No, 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 no,
Yes,
no. He got sued for it.
it
They
wasn't it. It was.
he didn't just release the papers. The Mary Farrell Foundation, which is a nonprofit group that maintains an online database of records related to the assassination, sued the Biden administration in October because there was an agreement in, I don't know, in the 60s, I think, probably, that all of the documents would be released, or it was in the 90s. I'm sorry. In 1992, the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act was passed that the government would be required to release all documents related to the assassination by October 2017. The Trump administration released most of the documents, but some had people that were still alive in them, so they didn't release those ones. So then in October, the Biden administration gets sued, and so now they finally released, um, I think it was like 13,000 documents.
Yeah. You know what my favorite thing when they came out in 2017 was? Because of the amount of people that were really still alive. Like it was obviously much more than just, Bush
Yeah,
one. It was like find a page that had actual writing on it because you would
right.
open a file and it would be a file and the whole thing would just have black bars
Would
of
be
shit,
redacted.
redacted,
Yeah.
redacted, redacted, redacted. It's like, well, great. You gave us a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, it's 13,000 documents. I put a link in our sources below if you want to check it out and go through it. I did not go through 13,000 documents. I'll be honest with you. Um, but I did read a CBS News article kind of talking about some of the stuff in the documents. And to me, the biggest takeaway from it was uh, there was definitely some connection between Lee Harvey Oswald and the Mexican government. And there was also definitely some interesting tidbits about how after the Bay of Pigs invasion, the Kennedy and his administration were like, "Ooh, the CIA kind of led us astray here. We didn't really like that. We should probably like look things over and maybe redesign what's going on in the CIA." And Kennedy is often quoted famously, even though it's not actually written anywhere, it's kind of a hearsay thing, that he said that he wanted to disband the CIA or rip it up into a million pieces and scatter it in the wind, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So clearly, John F. Kennedy didn't really like the CIA, and apparently, according to these documents, neither did a lot of people in his administration because they let him, like I said, led him astray in 1961 during the Bay of Pigs. 2 years later, John F. Kennedy winds up getting assassinated in a plot that we know at that time the CIA was doing a lot of these types of coups and assassinations, especially in Latin America. So,
And I think the most interesting thing about it all, and this is a story that I have a weird feeling that we're going to, maybe not next week, maybe not the week after, but once some real honed in internet sleuth gets through all 13,000 of these documents, there's going to be some interesting tidbits that come out. That's always how these things go. I'll be interested to see if there's any connections made between Bush one since his passing. I think that would be super interesting stuff to find out because he was
the director of the CIA.
Exactly. So, and then a president. So there's
Right. And a vice president. And
a vice
president's
president.
father.
Yeah. So this guy was involved in a lot of things, and the fact, like we had talked about, that they had to kind of wait till he was gone and out of here says a lot about maybe his involvement or the things that he knew regarding the JFK assassination.
So obviously
On
he was
top
the
of that,
director of the CIA later, I should say, like far after the Kennedy assassination. We should make that clear. But he was a director of the CIA.
Yes, I think the whole thing was that
He was an operative
around,
in the 60s. Yeah.
Yes, he was an op in the 60s, and when the JFK commission was going on and stuff,
The Warren
that's when
Commission. He was in the House of Representatives, I think, at that time.
That's what I'm like. This guy kind of had his hand in every way possible on every end of the spectrum here. It tapped into what was going on in general government for much of this era of American
I'm
history.
actually I'm looking through it. He did so much. Hold on. Let's just go through this, right? So he was in World War II
Yep.
as a kid. And then he goes into business and is an operative of the CIA during the 60s, but he's denied that claim. But they say he was an operative. And then he went on to be a US House member from Texas from 67 to 71, the ambassador to the UN, the committee chair of the Republican National Committee, the second chief of the U.S. Liaison Office to the People's Republic of China, the 11th director of the CIA, the vice president, and then the president, and then the father of the president. That's crazy.
Don't they also own some of the
They
Houston
owned
Astros?
the Texas Rangers.
I knew they owned. Yeah.
Yes.
So
So,
Bush is in on this. He knows something, and I
I
think
mean,
it'll be
at least he
interesting.
knew something. At the very
Yeah.
least, he knew
Yeah.
some things.
Yeah. So I'll be curious to see. The point that I was getting at here is there's a lot of documents to get through. It's been a day. Nobody has thumbed through 13,000 documents in one day. I don't care what kind of freak program you write. Like, some things just need to kind of be read, digested, contextualized. I'm picturing a guy like who has a bunch of, like the classic like papers with the strings, and he's like, I've been waiting for
the
this.
Charlie meme.
Yes. He's like, I've been waiting for this, and I'm waiting for that guy to tell us things. It's great that we have the CBS article, but I want to know what the guy with the strings and paper finds in these documents.
Right.
But
right.
important
the guy
nonetheless.
the Cheeto dusts in his mom's basement guy.
Yes. Sometimes
Gotcha.
those are your heroes.
You know what? I mean, Edward Snowden, in a weird way, kind of fills that space if you think about it. Kind of like working in your mom's basement, even though he was, kind of successful, but still. But anyway, we got one more.
Interesting either way.
Yeah, interesting, and we'll keep an eye on that. One last story to talk about, though, and that is the Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, FTX, Alameda Research story, which is basically, I mean, it's the biggest fraud scheme since Bernie Madoff in our country. And he was just arrested in the Bahamas, and the Bahamas does have extradition to the United States, which means if he's arrested in the Bahamas, since he's arrested for U.S. crimes and he's a U.S. citizen, they will send him over to the United States to seek justice. And he defrauded people out of billions of dollars. Basically, what his company was doing was FTX was a cryptocurrency. Alameda Research was a hedge fund. And he was lying to people saying, like, these two things have nothing to do with each other. Absolutely nothing to do with each other. I promise you, that was a lie. They had everything to do with each other. All of the money in the hedge fund was being used to prop up FTX. When the hedge fund started to tank because the economy started to tank, FTX also tanked, as well as most of the rest of the crypto market. But it was really bad. And then he just continued to double down on the lies, and people are obviously asking for their money back. The money was not there to be given back. And it was billions of dollars. And also there's, allegations of him basically using the hedge fund as a slush fund for him and his family, buying $1 billion mansions for his parents and using the money to live out some sort of sexual fantasy in the Bahamas, according to the allegations that he has against him. And then he has this bright idea to do what literally the first thing that you learn if you're a criminal lawyer is to tell your clients, don't talk to the media. Don't talk to anybody, really. Actually, just don't say anything, ever. Never talk. And what's the first thing that SBF does? A whole slew of interviews. Just a whole bunch of them. And in them, he says, yeah, my lawyers told me not to talk, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because he thinks, because he's a narcissist, clearly, like, I'm not a psychologist, so you don't have to take my word for it. But I think it's pretty clear. The man, if he's not a narcissist, he has something else not 100%, because he thinks he can just continue to lie his way out of it. If he's not a narcissist, he's just a pathological liar, and he thinks he's better than everybody else, which not.
No.
So Steve.
I just want to say, like, on its face, if somebody has to tell you, Company A, which has a lot of money, and Company B, which also has a lot of money, which I just so happen to be really strongly involved with both of them, not related. They have nothing to do with each other. I promise. That sounds a little fishy to me. And then on top of that, when you add in the context, like you said, this guy was going out. He was throwing these lavish parties, making these ridiculous purchases of homes and properties and cars and boats and, living this lavish lifestyle. It's like, all right, man, we're dealing with two, companies that handle billions of dollars, and you are somehow also spending billions of dollars. There's got to be questions that are asked.
And
And
he's also like
what's
30 years old.
I was to say, this is a young guy. What's interesting to me is, if not for the crypto market taking the dump that it did, which is ultimately, to my understanding, what revealed this scheme going on, how long could this guy have gotten away with this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like the Bernie Madoff thing. Like the only reason he got caught was because of the 2008 crash, right? It takes major recessions for a lot of these schemes to kind of come to light. Even though people were kind of suspicious of Bernie Madoff, but still it's interesting kind of to think about how long can these schemes go on, because with Madoff it went on for what, like 30, 40 years?
The interesting thing about high level fraud, and to your point, is it will work until it doesn't. And let me tell you something. Obviously, when it doesn't, boy, it stops fast. It hits a
Well, yeah, it
wall.
crashes. Yeah. Because
You
think about
know,
it, like when it comes to something like Madoff, which is just kind of like we know it all now, so it's a little bit easier to extrapolate about. Um, it was more of a kind of standard Ponzi scheme. This one, it's a Ponzi scheme ish, but Madoff was more standard, right? So you had Bernie Madoff. He would, Steven would invest in Madoff's hedge fund. He would take Steven's money and he would kind of be spending it for himself and not really ever investing it. But he would get a bunch of investors and he would be able, because he had so many investors investing into it, he's able to pay out the small funds, like the interest funds, using everybody else's money. So it's kind of skimming off the top, right?
mhm.
And then what happens is eventually people need that money, right? The stock market crashes in general, everything crashes, and now it's like, okay, I need cash on hand, I need to liquidate my assets, and you go to a guy like Bernie, and he can't liquidate the assets because the money's not actually there, and it wasn't actually being invested in anything, and it's like that scene. It's Christmas time, and this is my favorite Christmas movie, right? It's like the scene from It's a Wonderful Life, where it's the stock market crash of 1931, the one that started the Great Depression. Maybe it's 39. I don't know off the top of my head, but it was the Black Tuesday started the Great Depression, and everybody goes into the building and loans company and they're like asking for their money that they're paying, the accounts that they're using to pay for their house, because he builds a house, and you know the main character is like, listen, I don't have that money, like that money is not in the safe. He's like, your money is in Joe's house, and Joe's money is in Debbie's house, and Debbie's money is in Donna's house. The money's not here. I use your money so that everybody can be building a house, kind of like it's a bank in a way.
Mhm.
And so then he has some cash on hand and he gives it out, and the whole scene is like he needs to have some money at the end of the day, some cash on hand at the end of the day to be able to survive it. Um, and he winds up with $2 and he puts it in the safe and he's like, all right, mommy dollar and daddy dollar, now go in there and make, baby dollars. um, so it's that idea, right? The money's not actually there. So when there's a bank run, when people need that money and it's not there, they're out,
There's a
right?
lot of
So
problems.
it's billions of dollars in the case of FTX and SBF, billions of dollars.
And I think just another important part of context for this is, this guy was, having these, fantasy parties in the Bahamas, buying these properties, living this lifestyle. But he was also making tremendous donations to political actors,
Right.
which, I mean, we can, have a conversation about what that means. But at the end of the day, there is questions to be asked about, I don't know, man. These people in the government have a lot of information. They know a lot of things. If somebody who is receiving billions of dollars, not one individual, obviously, but this man's pumping millions of dollars. I think he said his total donations this year were over $40 million to political campaigns and individuals. If you are fishy and you're a government official that, hey, I don't know where this guy's getting all his money, but it's ending up in, either my campaign's pocket, it's going to my caucus, it's supporting my cause, maybe I'll look the other way. This is
Right.
not an allegation of any sorts, but
No,
somebody
it's
has
just
to ask the question.
it's another thing, and we briefly talked about it last week, and we've talked about it a lot. It's the idea of major money in politics, right? It's millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. If you can't convince me that if you're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars as an individual Congress member from one person, you can't convince me that you're not going to kind of look the other way sometimes when you shouldn't. I'm sorry, it's just impossible. It's impossible to convince me otherwise.
I mean, listen, they
So
say absolute power corrupts absolutely. I would say, tremendous political campaign donations also corrupt absolutely. At the end of the day, it's
right,
a money game. And it'll be interesting to see what the repercussions are. This is a trial that I think will kind of grip the nation once we really dig into the weeds and see who were all these people that were giving him money. You know, Specifically, who was this money going to? How is it getting broken down? Because this isn't all readily accessible at the moment. And as lawsuits and criminal proceedings go on and we get our discovery and these documents come out, we get court hearings and trials and all these things, we're going to really learn the down and dirty details of what seems to be the largest fraud scheme in American history at this point with SBF and FTX. So I mean, we're sitting kind of at the precipice of a really big moment when it comes to the intersection of like politics, cryptocurrencies, and what fraud looks like in the 21st century. I
yeah,
think
and I
it's going to
think
be an interesting case.
yeah, for sure. I think that it could be used pretty well as a way to turn and look and be like, when people are campaigning, like, we need to do something about this because this is clearly an issue, right? And I
Yeah,
think that you're going to see a much stronger push on both sides of the political aisle to sort of try and figure out ways to curtail the money in politics, because I
reel it
think
in.
that issue is it goes through a lot of barriers. I can't really see a good, legitimate conservative argument as to why we should keep at least like this massive amount of money in politics. It's one thing to do like individual grassroots donations. Like, yeah, okay, I understand that. It costs money to campaign at the end of the day. But, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars from individuals, and you're telling me it has no influence over you. I don't know. I just don't think that men are angels, you know what I mean, to use a phrase from the founding fathers. I think that power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars also plays a role in people's minds. Like, let's not kid ourselves here.
I couldn't agree more. It'll be interesting to see, but you're talking about the same body of individuals who, I mean, listen, every once in a
Pretty
while
much
the brave
openly
soul.
insider trade. Yeah.
I was going to say, every once in a while, the brave soul pops up and it's like, hey, we should pass a law that, says we can't do all the insider trading that we do. And everybody's like, yeah. And then that bill never comes up.
And then everyone's like, we don't insider trade. What are you talking about? No, 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 no. My husband insider trades, not me.
Yes. I was gonna say, if you want to bring it full circle, one of my favorite TikTok accounts that I will miss dearly once I delete the app is the guy that just tracks very specifically Nancy Pelosi and her husband's investment accounts, and he starts every video. He's like, "I'm not giving any financial advice. I'm not telling you who to invest in, what to invest in." He goes,
But this is
"But
what Paul Pelosi just invested in.
yeah, this is what Paul Pelosi just invested in." And in case you didn't know, his wife, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, and he goes through the whole thing about, the lack of regulation over these things. And my favorite part is when he pulls up charts and he's like, these are some of the other things that he's invested in. When he invested in them, and then he'll pull up like an article of a piece of legislation that directly names that company getting like this large government contract. It'd be like, and 3 weeks later, this happened, and Paul Pelosi made X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's so funny
Maybe
too,
you
'cause
should, maybe you shouldn't.
it's so funny because too, he's like, if you look at like Paul Pelosi's investment success rate, it's like 98%. Like Warren Buffett would dream of it.
Yeah.
It's so blatant. It's so in front of your face, and it's so interesting that people just, I don't know if they choose to ignore it. Look, I know that people have, lives of their own, and they're not as deeply invested in the weeds of politics as you or I are, Stephen. Because you have a real life and you have a real job and kids and so on and so forth. But it's so blatant. It's right in front of your eyes, and nobody does anything because who's going to do something? Like Congress,
No.
the people that are
going to take
money out of their own
money out of
pockets.
their own pockets. Yeah. Woo! I'll hold my breath on that one.
Right. It's like term limits. Great idea. Everybody supports term limits, except for, the people that have to pass the law about term limits.
That should just be on like the next general election. That should just be like a
no, but for real, like these
universal.
are things that should be on if it, I think that again would have to be passed through Congress, but sort of this idea of if it affects legislators, the legislation goes to the general public.
You would think.
Like, isn't that? I don't know. Maybe Stephen, we're just too, I don't know, naive. I don't think it's naive, but
I was to say,
idealistic.
you're asking a lot.
Yeah,
you're asking a lot. Hard problems with easy solutions. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
No, I wouldn't even say hard problems. Like easy problem, easy solution, but hard people to be in charge of those things. The wrong people to be in charge of those things.
You know what's going to happen, AJ, is someday you and I are going to be in these positions. If things go, whatever way they might. I'd love to hold elected office someday. And maybe we could do like a 20-year episode where, we're both in this game for real, got real skin in it. And be like, you know what? We were wrong. It's great being able to insider trade.
Right. No, exactly. No, I don't know. It's like, I feel like, let's say you were watching a basketball game, right? And it's the Lakers, and LeBron James is completely healthy, but he's just playing on the bench. Like he's not playing. He's like sitting on the bench, and you're like, maybe if LeBron James was playing, like you would be winning right now, and he's just not playing, and everybody knows it, but like the manager just isn't putting, or like the coach just isn't putting him in.
Yep.
Because maybe the coach bet on the other team to win or something like that.
That's exactly what it is. And then 10 days later you find out that the coach got a real nice payout from DraftKings because the Boston Celtics won.
Right.
Whatever.
It's like easy problem, easy solution, bad people in charge.
Yep.
But it is what it is. And look, I think that with that, that'll be the end of our show. I think that we covered the stories we wanted to cover. It's been a pretty slow news week, all things considered.
Yeah.
This is a slow news time. It's the holiday season, like things aren't exactly ramping up. We'll get more after the new year, I'm sure. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
But anyway, look, we'll probably be here next week. We'll probably do a shorter episode. It'll come out on Christmas Eve. So But other than that, I hope you guys are enjoying these next couple weeks as we get through to Christmas time and New Year's. And I believe it's Hanukkah right now. So if you celebrate Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah. And yeah, this has been another episode of Bridging the Gap here on the Jersey First TV network. Steven, do you have anything to say before we sign off?
No, I would just encourage people to, this time of year, whether it's easy for you or hard for you, just be kind, show love to everybody. You don't know what everybody's going through, especially this time of year. And the most valuable gift that you can give to anybody is time. Just whether it's a phone call, a text message, hanging out with a friend you haven't seen in a long time. For me, it's really important to just remember the things that matter the most this time of year. And, with that being said, on the flip side, as New Year's is coming up, what a good time to make a positive change in your life, whether it be health and fitness, education, being a better friend, whatever it may be. Now's the time to kind of start taking that honest look at yourself and putting into practice the things that you want to be better at. So when the new year comes, you could jump into this, new chapter of life with some vigor and some great positive energy at your back, just kind of pushing you into whatever greatness awaits you. So be mindful of those things and just keep living.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something we'll talk about more, as this was another episode of Bridging the Gap. I'm AJ Malillo.
I'm Stephen Ramolo.
Have a good week, everybody.